All right. Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining and welcome to the Sunrain Cybersecurity Challenge introduction. So this, as per my understanding, is for the Geekula Student Societies. It was initiated by Luto from UNISA, but I think we've got members from, various student societies across different universities here tonight, which is wonderful to see. And I want to give you all a warm welcome tonight, and I hope you find the session very informative. So perhaps quickly, just a quick introduction from myself. You guys it might sound like I'm just a voice in the darkness, and I want to perhaps just quickly show you guys that that is indeed not the case. So good evening. I'm Dr. Heloise Meyer. I will be hosting you tonight for this presentation. So not just a voice in the darkness, but I'm actually here physically. It's late at night. That's probably the reason why my camera is off, and I'll get quite passionate when doing this presentation. So you will see hands flying around. But just for the sake of the poor network as well, I'm not going to keep my camera on. But at least you guys have a good indication of at least who is speaking now. So yes, I'm Heloise. I actually currently work at the CSIR. So for those of you that don't know, CSIR is the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. We're based in Pretoria. I've been at the CSIR now for, it's going on almost 13, 14 years. So I've been quite there for some time. Sort of an interesting, path that I followed to get to cybersecurity, perhaps, So when I started at the CSIR many years ago, still also as a student, the focus was more on software development per se, developing software tools. And we were developing these tools for the defense industry and specifically developing cybersecurity tools. So that's where I got my first taste and really got my interest to work in cybersecurity. My background is computer science, studied undergrad, honors, masters, and PhD, which I completed in 2019. But I really, over the years, developed quite a passion for cybersecurity, as you guys can see in terms of my research interest. I'm very passionate about cybersecurity. Oh, there, geek culture. Sorry. Thanks for clearing that up. I just looked at the chat. I interrupted myself. Thanks, geek culture. Okay, awesome. It's so, I must say, guys, sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself now, but let me just perhaps mention this. I mean, I was at a university. You guys can sort of perhaps work it out now, but it's about 15 years ago that I was a student at university, and we didn't really have these communities or societies, especially for us that, or perhaps a bit more on the geeky side, if I can call it that, in IT and software development, cybersecurity. So it's wonderful that there's such societies now. And I will remember geek culture. So thanks for clearing that up. I learned at least something tonight. So thanks a lot, guys. So yes, so as you guys can see, research interest, very passionate about cybersecurity, mobile security, digital forensics. A lot of my research focus in terms of master's PhD was on the digital forensic side. So I've got quite a bit of experience from a research perspective in those particular fields. But also very passionate about CTF competitions, So for those of you that might not be aware, CTF is Capture the Flag. And I guess that's probably the most of you came here to learn about today, and we'll talk in much more details about CTFs. But that's really quite a passion of mine as well. I still try to participate in CTF events whenever I can, but I'm going to be honest, unfortunately, my workload doesn't always allow it anymore. But I've also moved beyond just participating and actually developing challenges as well, which is also quite fun. So if you guys do end up participating in our challenge and our competition, I really hope you guys will. You will encounter some of the challenges that I've developed. So where I'm currently, I'm still at CSIR. I'm still based at CSIR, but I'm currently working for a group called Sunrain. So Sunrain is the South African National Research Network. I'm going to give you guys a bit of background on the work we do. I think it's quite relevant, especially since you guys are students at the university, and that's one of our key focus areas. And we form part of a larger group called NICIS, which is the National Integrated Cyber Infrastructure System. I'll give you guys just a very brief background. I've been there now almost 3 years, so in 2 months' time it will be 3 years. And here my main responsibilities is to lead the cybersecurity challenge competition. So I'm always responsible to try and reach as many students as possible. And then I'm also responsible to manage the CSIRT that's hosted at Sunray. So that is the Cybersecurity Incident Response Team. That's really there to assist with cybersecurity for universities as well, but I'll touch on that as well a bit. So that's, I think, enough about myself, guys. You probably have a bit of a better understanding and background from where I come. I want to give you guys a bit of, a bit of more information. Apologies if I just mute, guys. It's very distracting if you present and people are talking, so it's nothing personal. So as mentioned, I'm based at SUNREN, the South African National Research and Education Network. We're responsible for developing the SA NREN. That's the National Research and Education Network within South Africa. And I'll give you guys a bit of background in terms of what the NREN is, but our responsibility is to build this NREN, which is in fact a large network, by providing high-speed connectivity, and we do this specifically for research and education. So all universities, there are 26 public universities within South Africa, they're all connected to this network. So all of you guys, from my understanding, you're currently based at a university. I know a lot of you are from UNISA. You guys will be making use of this particular network as well. And also quite important of this particular network is not just the connectivity, but also the services running on this particular network. I'll give you guys a bit of insight into what those services are. But I also want to give a shout out to the other groups that form part of NICIS. So we've got the RISA, which is the Data Intensive Research Initiative of South Africa. They are more focused in terms of promoting data science and data intensive research projects, providing data analysis capability, especially at the national level. And then we also have CHPC, which is the Center for High Performance Computing. So they assist in terms of the development of, high performance computing services, making it available both to public and private sector. So there is a reason why I'm giving a shout out to our other groups. So the human capital development is quite important across the board when it comes to NICIS. And you guys are here tonight to learn about the SUNREN competition, which is the Cybersecurity Challenge. The RISA hosts the annual Student Data Fund competition as well. So if you guys are also interested to learn more about the Data Fund, that's more in terms of data science, data analyst kind of challenges, you guys are welcome to reach out to me afterwards as well. And then also CHPC has the student cluster competition. So if you're very interested in terms of developing these clusters to solve, very difficult problems in perhaps the best and quickest time possible, you're welcome to reach out. So if you guys want to learn more of these competitions besides just the cybersecurity challenge, please let me know afterwards. I can put you in contact with the right people to learn about those competitions as well. So these three groups together, we although we each have our own focus area, we work together to enable large-scale science projects within South Africa. So you guys can see with SUNREN, networking, the RISA, the data portion, CHPC, the computing side, it's very three integral pillars to enable these large-scale science projects. And now I'm talking specifically, about enabling the fourth industrial revolution, projects such as the Square Kilometre Array, building cyber infrastructure, not just within South Africa, but within the SADC regions as well. So we play quite an important role to enable these projects as well. But I don't want to spend too much time on this particular topic. I think you guys got a good background. I just want to give you a bit of insight in terms of what NRENs are as well. So that's the main focus point for where Sunren is based, or where I'm based. As mentioned, NRENS is National Research Education Network. So as Sunren, that's our responsibility to develop this national research and education network for South Africa. And it is specialized network infrastructure that's developed exclusively to support the country's research, education, and innovation communities. So we developed this particular network, if we take universities as an example, to enable universities to do their research, to provide the lecturers, to engage, to network. So this is a critical network, to enable all of those factors. And that's really our main focus point. So we work together with another organization called TENET, the Tertiary Education and Research Network of South Africa. And together we work to design, build, implement, and then operate this particular network. So quite interesting. NRENS is not a novel concept or unique to South Africa. You get NRENS across the globe. If we take Africa as an example, you have BOTSREN in Botswana, MAREN is in Malawi, ZAMREN is in Zambia. So you guys can see it. The idea with the NRENS is to build this at a national level, National Research and Education Network, but also quite importantly is for these NRENS to also operate globally and connect globally to allow for that interaction, connectivity, and networking as well. It's a bit of a different focus to your traditional commercial networks. You guys must be wondering why not use just existing networks that are in place. You can look at providers such as Telkom or MTN or Vodacom. Why not make use of them? And there's a key reason behind this, because we developed this network as big as possible, trying to offer the research and education community as much bandwidth as possible, but at little cost. That is our main focus area. We want you guys operating on this network to be able to do your work, your studies, your research without wondering or being concerned at the cost level. And that's our main focus area. And then, as mentioned, we also offer quite a lot of services on this particular network. I've mentioned the CSIRT, which is cybersecurity services. As soon as there's such a network in place, you guys can already imagine the kind of activities that will happen on this network. It's quite interesting. We keep that and monitor that on a daily basis. But the one I want to emphasize, the one you guys might be most familiar with, is Eduroam, the wireless connectivity that's made available at universities. And I want to emphasize, if you guys don't know of Eduroam, or if Eduroam is not available or working at your institution, please also let me know, because that should not be the case. You guys should have access to Eduroam at all universities within South Africa. And we've even expanded the rollout of Eduroam, so you guys will even pick it up at certain airports, such as I know at OR Tambo, that's currently available. So very nice service. And as I mentioned, if you guys are not aware or don't know or don't have access, please let me know, because that should not be the case. So I'm quickly going to just show you guys, this is the network. I've talked a lot about the NREN. This is the actual network. This is a visualization of it. This is now in January. I actually need to update this one. There is a latest update. But this should give you guys a very good indication just of the scale and scope of this particular network. And as you guys can see, it reaches quite large portions of the country. And if you guys look carefully, you will see the places it reach to is definitely places where there are universities or where there are research institutions. So it's developed with that specific in mind. And also it's quite a big network with a lot of capacity. We always build this or try to develop this network in terms of upgrading existing links, improving your bandwidth and capacity, but also ensuring there's redundancy. So if one link goes down, it should be a case where you guys don't even notice it. If it's at let's say at the location that you are currently studying, there should be another route that can be used to get that connectivity. So this is what we do as Sunren. This is our main focus behind the scenes. But guys, I know you're not here to learn more. You're not here just to learn about Sunbrain. I'm always obliged to give those few extra slides, and I think it's good just to give you guys perhaps a bit of a perspective where we fit in and why this competition is also so important. In terms of developing cybersecurity skills. We've just mentioned, and you guys have seen now just the scale of this network, and this interacts even globally. Like I've said, you guys won't believe the kind of activity, um, cybersecurity activity that happens on this network. So we always need to be on our toes to stop the attacks or threats that can take place. And this is where the cybersecurity challenge comes in. I talked about human capital development, and this is really the key focus area of the cybersecurity challenge. So this is a competition that's open to all South African universities. I've mentioned there's 26. I know this was arranged from UNISA's side. UNISA is one of those 26, and I'm pretty sure there's probably more representation here tonight as well. We've also extended this particular competition to universities of the SADC region. You guys must be wondering perhaps why. I mean, you already got 26 universities within South Africa. Why more universities? And it's purely because of the critical need to develop these skills. Cybersecurity skills are in shortage. We need more people to actually, upskill and get more familiar with cybersecurity. Universities are trying to develop the content and the courses or the subjects to try and bring in cybersecurity. And again, this is where this competition fits in quite importantly, where we're trying to help universities to get students to gain this exposure to cybersecurity. So this is really the main focus of the competition, is really to build the cybersecurity specialists, not just within South Africa, but within the SADC region as well. So besides that, you guys must still be wondering, okay, why do I actually want to participate in here? I mean, if you're very passionate about cybersecurity and you want to learn more, you probably already sold. But for those of you perhaps still wondering, I mean, why do I want to put the effort into attend this? I think first and foremost, I mean, this is a very nice, safe environment just to come and practice your information security, or you can call it hacking skills. And I mean, information security is applicable to all of us. It doesn't matter in terms of what degree you're studying, if it's computer science, engineering, it really doesn't matter. Cybersecurity affects everyone, and we all need to be aware of the threats and how to defend against it. And I think this is what this competition can offer you guys. It's just to gain that extra knowledge in terms of how cybersecurity works, and also perhaps how to be better prepared to defend against these kinds of attacks. So as the second bullet is stipulating there, you guys will come here, you will learn new skills. Yes, you can come if you think you already have a few skill sets in terms of hacking and all of that. You can come and try and test and see how far your skills can take you, but I can promise you, you're going to learn a few new things as well. Very importantly, especially for you guys that are thinking or considering a career in cybersecurity, what this competition will do is it will change your way of thinking. We always mention it as, some people call it the hacker mindset. I tend to refer to it as just offensive thinker. If you want to catch a hacker or a cyber attacker, you need to be able to think like them. So doing this competition, participating in it, will just give you a different way of thinking, which is quite critical working in cybersecurity. It's certainly going to improve your problem-solving skills. I mean, you're definitely going to have you're going to be challenged in different ways. And I always tell the students, if you think this is the correct way to solve a problem, you might end up hitting a wall. And these challenges will force you to think differently. It's also going to help you to just think out of the box, think a bit differently. We talked about the offensive thinker mindset as well. So it's definitely going to give you that kind of ability just to solve problems perhaps in a different way. Very importantly, in this point, I want to emphasize a bit job and credentials. this is perhaps one of the best things. If you guys are at university now in your final year, you're at the point where you need to step out into the work environment, into industry, and find a job opportunity. I mean, this is going to be probably one of the best credentials that you can add to your CV. It shows that, yes, you've completed your studies, but you've went above and beyond and actually participated in other activities to improve your skills. And what we've seen now is with, especially when it comes to certain internships in the cybersecurity, domain with certain organizations, that they are starting to pick up that a lot of the students are doing this particular challenge. And what's nice about it is that if you participate, it's already almost a way to bet and say, listen, you have these skill sets. Even if you study computer science with a cybersecurity subject or engineering, by doing this competition, it will, I can promise you, if you do this and you add it to your CV is going to stand out. We've seen it now in practice. And organizations are seeing this as well. They're coming to this competition to headhunt students. That is also happening. So hopefully that can already be very good motivation for you guys to perhaps join this competition this year. And then lastly, also with this competition, there is 2 rounds, and I'll give you guys a bit of a breakdown in terms of how the rounds work. But if you're fortunate to make it to the finals, you can also be part of the CHPC National Conference, which takes place at the end of the year. And as you guys can see, we've got 2 photos of our event in 2023 and 2024. So it's quite a big event, around 500 participants, people from industry, international delegates. So you never know, you might come and actually meet your future employer. So that was a brief introduction on the Sunrain Cybersecurity Challenge. I just want to point you guys, we have a website with more information. It's quite easy. It's just www.csc.ac.za. Please give it a peek. We tend to publish all important information on the website, dates, when things are happening, closing, all important information. So keep a close eye on it. I will probably post some important, relevant information either tomorrow or over the weekend, which I think might be of quite a big interest. So please keep a close eye on the website. And I went the wrong way. That's the right way. We've got a nice overview, especially in terms of what you guys can expect at the finals. But I'll give you guys that insight, so don't worry too much. There is a few rules in terms of eligibility to participate, who may or may not participate. But I'll give you guys a breakdown in terms of the important rules. But please, perhaps it will be good if you guys do decide to register a team to participate, to perhaps just check the rules before you complete registration. But on that, let's touch on perhaps just a few of the important rules. So the most important thing is that if you're going to register a team, all team members must be registered for their tertiary studies in 2025 at eligible tertiary education. So you need to be registered for your studies this year. If you're not yet a registered student and you're planning only to register next year, that is unfortunately going to impact your ability to participate. But my assumption here is, and it might be an unsafe assumption, but I assume most of you guys, and hopefully most of you guys, are already registered. I mean, if you're part of this geek culture society, I assume you guys are registered students. And I mean, if you're at the Public University of South Africa, you already tick that box, so that's not a problem. The next point is in terms of the team size. So this competition is not an individual competition. Important. When you work in cybersecurity, and you guys will see if you get exposure to cybersecurity, is such a large field with so many domains. You can't know everything. I've worked now in cybersecurity probably for around 10 years. And I can tell you guys now, I mean, I can count on my one hand the domains I feel comfortable with, and there's probably 3-4 times those many domains. So it's not possible to know everything about cybersecurity. And that's why we have teams. We try to complement one another. So with the competition, you do If you want to participate, you need to work as a team. Team members are restricted to 3 members if all members are of the same gender. But if you can mix up your team in terms of gender, you can be a maximum of 4 members per team. So just take note of it. The reason behind this rule is if you look at cybersecurity, for any one of you guys that might have attended perhaps some of the B-side events or any other cybersecurity engagement, it's still quite heavily male dominant. There's nothing wrong with it. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. But we really want to give as much exposure to ladies, to the women, to also step into this environment. This is an environment, it doesn't matter in terms of if you're male or female, you can be a cybersecurity specialist. And this is what we're trying to achieve with this particular rule. The third one there, it's not perhaps really applicable to you guys here, but I want to emphasize that teams that won last year, so teams that came first, second, or third at last year's competition, they won't be allowed to return to the finals specifically. And the reason for that is we just want to have as much students gaining the exposure to this competition. We don't want to end up in a scenario where you have one team that is so good, so strong from first year already, and they won 3 years in a row, or even 4 years in a row. We don't want that. So at least we want to give that bit of a break and allow new teams to enter the competition. And then the last point there, and that's probably the one you guys have the most questions about, I assume at this point, and I've already received a few questions, and please guys, questions are always welcome. You guys will see my email address at the end. You're welcome to email me if you have any questions. We'll address some questions at the end as well. But back to this point is that for this particular competition, we do prefer to coordinate and work with a mentor at each university. It just makes organization a bit more streamlined. But I do know that we do not have mentors at all universities. So, for example, I know for a fact, UNISA, I've been trying, and I know some of the students here have also been trying to get a mentor for UNISA specifically. So it's still a work in progress, but what I want to emphasize, guys, is if you come to our website and you're from a university, but you don't see your university mentor, that is no reason that you guys are not allowed to participate. You can still participate, even if there's no mentor at that university. The mentor, like I've said, helps us to facilitate the organization of the, especially in terms of the qualification and final, and the organization of the competition as a whole, just to streamline the process. But if you guys want to participate, but you see, oh, no mentor, no problem, you can still participate. If somebody's happy, if we get to a point where a team, let's say for example, a team from UNISA qualifies for the final and you guys still not have a mentor, then we'll, as the committee, will work and try and see if we can get a lecturer at the university. If not, one of our committee members can always step in and act as a mentor for the particular team. So hopefully, in a very long explanation, hopefully you guys can see, please don't worry about that. It's something we're working towards, and hopefully we can get that resolved still this year, but this is not going to limit your participation. So please, guys, you're still more than welcome to form your teams and register. So to register, it's on our website. So you guys will see at the top, there's register. It will take you to a Google form. Just take note of the privacy note. I mean, we live in an era where there is POPIA. So we do collect some, perhaps, we collect personal information. I can't say it can be considered personal information. It is personal information. So we do give an explanation in terms of what we collect. And I promise you guys, I'm just keeping it for the competition. I'm not going to sell your information. It's purely for the competition purposes. So let me perhaps just quickly jump back. So please remember, guys, If you want to register, if you want to participate, we do it as teams, 3 members, same gender, 4 members if you mix. Pick a nice and cool team name. We've had interesting names in the past, and I'm actually considering this year to give a prize for the best team name. So maybe that can inspire you guys. But pick a nice, cool, funky team name. That will also be required. And once you guys know your team members, you know your team name, you can come register on the platform. So participation follows 2 rounds. You guys already heard I talked about qualification, finals. So we follow these 2 rounds. Qualification is open to all universities and the universities within the SADC region. So there's no limitation. It's also a case, guys, this question is probably going to come up. You don't have to be studying a computer science or engineering degree, like computer engineering and all of that. If you're doing like BA languages, you can also participate. There's no limitation in the kind of degree that you study. Of course, if you can come here with a bit of background in terms of, perhaps a bit of software development and even perhaps a bit of cybersecurity knowledge, it will be to your advantage. But I can promise you guys, we had teams in the past that they were, I think the one was doing, was it, I want to say bioinformatics or something, or it was a more of a almost kind of medical degree or something. They came, they made it to the finals and they did well. So your degree doesn't limit your participation as well. So please take note of that. So qualification open to all eligible students at eligible institution. Qualification is completely remote. So the platform is available online. You can do it from wherever you as a team feel comfortable participating. And you guys will have 10 days to participate in the qualification round. So I've already listed a few dates here. As we're not working or not yet have a mentor, what I'll probably do as you guys register, I will contact you to confirm dates. These will be the options. So you guys can perhaps already take note and check which dates will be most suitable. We give you guys 10 days because even if it's in, let's say, when the university is on, you have other subjects, other responsibilities, 10 days should be more than enough, especially if you're a team of 3 or 4 to complete all the challenges. So 10 days, that's the motivation behind it. So what I usually do in terms of the registered teams, you will only receive a notification on the day the qualification round opens. But this is where we communicate the dates with the mentors. Again, since this might not be possible for you guys, I will directly, as your teams register. So if I see teams from universities that I know don't have a mentor, I will contact the registered teams and we can negotiate and decide in terms of the suitable dates to participate. So again, please guys, don't worry. I mean, even if there's no mentor, we'll get you guys to participate. Important, the qualification is only open till the 10th of September. So the 1st to the 10th of September is really the last round you guys can participate. Please take note of that. I will be notifying the teams who have qualified by the 15th. In terms of who can qualify or how it works, I'll give you guys a bit of insight a bit later on. There is technical support, so even though this is remotely, if you guys run into trouble, run into problems, I'm quite quick to respond. You guys are more than welcome to email me. We've got a Discord server. I'm going to share the link with that of our server with you guys as well. So there's various ways you can come in contact to talk to me or mention your experiencing some problems. So that support is always available. And now I want to jump into what you guys can expect and more, perhaps touch more on the CTF angle a bit more. So for the qualification round, what you guys can expect is what we call Jeopardy style CTF challenges. So what is Jeopardy style? You guys can consider it as a collection of hacking challenges. I tend to call it puzzles. So it's basically puzzles focusing on a specific domain within cybersecurity that you will need to solve. We try to keep this real and realistic, and therefore often include real and current vulnerabilities, or current and trending topics within the cybersecurity domain. So I always tell the students when I present that it's quite interesting. A lot of the cybersecurity skills I've learned along the way was actually participating in the CTF events, and you guys will be quite surprised to hear that a lot of the skills I've learned, small little things, have really helped in terms of doing incident response and investigation. So the skills you're going to learn in terms of solving these puzzles or hacking challenges will benefit you later on, especially if you work in cybersecurity. So with Jeopardy style, as I've mentioned, challenges, puzzles focused on a specific domain in cybersecurity. It can be web exploitation, forensics, cryptography, steganography, networking, binary exploitation. So there's quite a few. We try to spread it out and give you guys exposure to as many of these domains as possible. And again, why teamwork is so critical and important when it comes to solving these challenges. The challenges are also sorted according to difficulty level. Very important. So if you guys come to the platform, you will see the challenges have points assigned to them. The points is your indication in terms of difficulty. Higher points, the more difficult. Lower points, the more easy it is supposed to be. But we do understand sometimes, depending on your knowledge and skills, even a simple, easy challenge might be difficult. But the easy ones are developed in such a way that it should, even though perhaps a Google search or perhaps even ChatGPT can help you to solve it quite quickly and just build that confidence and get some points on the board. The more difficult challenges is probably going to take you a bit of time and perhaps even a bit of research to actually get them to solve. So what do I mean by solving a challenge? So if you actually solve a challenge, if you fix this particular puzzle, you will get a flag. The flag is essentially the value. It can be a string, it can be a password, a file name, date. It comes in different formats, but that is the thing you will submit to get points. And again, the points will depend on the difficulty level of the challenge. Easier, less points, more difficult, more points. We do make hints available for some of the challenges. So if you guys come to the qualification round, you will see some of the challenges, especially the more difficult ones, do have hints. But I'm going to tell you what I tell all the other students is that if it comes to hints, tread carefully. Use it as a very last resort. If you think you've solved the challenge, if you as a team think you've solved the challenge, you got the flag, but you submit it and it's marked incorrect because you get immediate feedback. Rather reach out to us. You can contact me and say, listen, we've solved this challenge. We got this flag. It seems like the right flag, but it still gets marked incorrectly. And we're basically 100% sure it's right. Rather do that because what can happen is, we're all human, we do make mistakes, and what can happen, especially in this design, is small typos, extra spaces can cause a flag that you submit, it being the right flag, but there's a little space at the end that can be marked as incorrectly. And even though you've got the right ones. So it's little things like that. And if you end up using a hint, I can't reverse it. You're going to lose points, and we don't want that to happen. So rather contact us. We'll give you guys direction. If we see you on the right path, but you're not yet 100% there, we might give you a nudge, hint in the right direction. Or if we see, oh goodness, no, you're completely on the wrong path, perhaps then we'll suggest making use of a hint, or we'll try and give you guidance without outright giving you guidance, if I can put it like that. So what I'm trying to emphasize here, guys, is you're welcome to reach out to us as organizers. This is a remote online event, the qualification round. So we know it can perhaps be a bit tricky if you don't have that immediate direct engagement. but please note that we are available to assist on an offline basis as well. So how to solve the challenge? So if you guys come to our platform, you will be exposed and given quite a few challenges. I think for the qualification, we have 40 challenges across quite a few domains. So it's quite a lot to keep you guys busy. And if you're already feeling overwhelmed, again, I'm going to emphasize teamwork, divide and conquer. If you're going to come to this competition, if you want to do well and potentially make it to the finals, you will need to divide and conquer. Play to your team members' strength. If you know you're perhaps better with forensics, take on those challenges. Let your other team members tackle some of the other domains. Keep that in mind. So with the challenges, if you click on a challenge, you will be presented, with a nice description. There's going to be a title to the challenge as well. Look at the title, read the description carefully. In of itself, the title and the description sometimes, these little hints. So read it carefully, especially if you struggle with the challenge. Just going back to the title might give you perhaps the direction to go in. Again, purpose, solve the challenge, get the flag. Flags are marked automatically, so you immediately get that feedback. Notice they can be case sensitive, so some of the flags will be expected in a certain format. We try to give you guidance on what this format is. So this will help you guys perhaps just to limit the number of submissions that you guys need to make in order to get the points at the end of the day. Please don't brute force my platform. It will stop you and kick you off. So don't submit too many flags too quickly. It will kick you off the platform. Then for the qualification, as I've mentioned, we do quite a few domains. So we have a few bonus challenges just to get the blood flowing, get the confidence building. They are really easy, straightforward. Get some points on the board. It's always the best place to start. Cryptography, this is cybersecurity. Cryptography, very fun challenges, I must say. If you're quite new to cryptography, you'll probably learn a thing or two here, but they're all quite fun to do. The MATLAB on-ramp is perhaps the one that you guys will, raise an eyebrow and say, listen, that looks like an outlier. What is that? So one of our sponsors in the past has been MathWorks and Optimum Solutions, and they are the developers and the sellers of MATLAB. So if you guys have heard of MATLAB, the tool, this is the reason why we have this on-ramp in here, because as a sponsor for our competition, especially at the final, we have a dedicated challenge focusing on MATLAB. So what the MATLAB on-ramp is basically a 2-hour training course. It's free to do. You guys are more than welcome to do it. I would really advise you to do it. It's another very nice credential to add to your CV. And you guys can get 3 points for doing it as well. So that's the reason why it's in here, but very handy. So if you guys are new to MATLAB, I think getting this particular skill set on your CV is going to be quite handy. Then also forensics, network analysis. There's open source intelligence challenges, which are very fun. I always tell the students, if you think you can Google, those are your challenges to do. Reverse engineering, a bit more technical side. There's even one focusing on mobile applications. So if you guys are new to mobile security, mobile application, we have challenges there as well. Guys will learn a thing or two. Web exploitation. And then miscellaneous they're still cyber focused, but I couldn't fit in any of the above categories. But believe me, they will probably require a bit of software development, but they will be fun to do. As I've mentioned, about 40 challenges, so it's definitely more than enough to keep you guys busy for 10 days. Now let's get to the finals. This is probably the highlight. This is definitely a highlight every year for me since I've started organizing this challenge, which my first one was in 2022. So for the finals, as mentioned, qualification open to all students. At all universities, there's no limit. For the finals, unfortunately, since it is an in-person event, it's hosted alongside the CHPC National Conference. I can only take the top 10 teams. So how do we get to the top 10 teams? I can only take the top team per university department. So what do I mean by university department? For this particular competition, especially since there's so much interest, I mean, guys, there were 600 students that participated last year, over approximately, I think, 120 teams. So you guys can see it's a lot of interest, but I can only take the top team per university department. And department, we distinguish between computer science and engineering departments. This is especially for the larger universities where there's quite a few students, we made this distinguish. So you guys, if you look at last year's competition, you will see we had teams from WITS, both engineering and computer science. So that is the limit. We take only one team per university department. So what does that mean? Let's take UNISA as an example. If I get 10 teams from UNISA here, you will need to be the top team from UNISA in order to be considered for the finals, and then also you need to place in the top 10 overall. So if we have 26 universities, and considering we look at university departments, you have to place probably in the top 10 from approximately, I would say, about 30, 40, let's say universities, considering we're looking at university departments. So you guys, if you want to make it to final, and that's the biggest prize, is making it to the finals. You have to try and solve as many of the challenges as possible and get as many points as possible. Now, I want to emphasize this perhaps because I know what happens. You guys are going to come to the qualification. If it's your first time doing CTFs, it might be overwhelming. If you're not so familiar with cybersecurity, you're going to struggle perhaps. I might be wrong. There might be an outlier team here, and I certainly hope that's the case. But you guys shouldn't get demotivated if it comes to the end of the year and you didn't make it to the finals. A nice story to show I can't show you guys, but to tell you guys is that in 2023, I started getting participation from CUT, Central University of Technology. They're based in Bloemfontein, or at least their main campus. They participated in 2023 and didn't do too bad, but didn't make it to the finals, unfortunately. But they came back last year, and a team did make it to the finals. They actually had a team that placed in the top 10 overall. So please don't get demotivated if you guys come this year and perhaps don't make it. Keep at it, keep trying, keep learning, keep building those skills, because I can promise you, you will perhaps come back the next year and you will kill the challenges and make it top 10. So I just wanted to emphasize that. But to motivate you guys as well, perhaps to try your best and try your hardest to make it to as the top 10 teams. If you do make it to the top 10, attending the finals is fully sponsored. So you guys don't have to worry in terms of paying for accommodation, travel. We'll pay for flights to get you guys from your university to where the event will take place and back again. We'll provide meals, accommodation, all those things are sponsored. So it might look like a free holiday, but at the event, at the competition, you guys are going to be quite busy, but it's a lot of fun. I can promise you that at least. It's going to take place from the 29th of November to the 5th of December. So those dates are locked in, so you guys can already perhaps keep it in mind. The venue is not yet known. We're still working on that, so I can't divulge too much. But at the end of the day, even though just making it to the finals is the biggest prize you can probably get, it's again a very good opportunity to interact and network. You've got students from other universities participating in the other competitions. There's delegates from the conference, people from industry. It's a crazy time, but it's a fun time, and it's a very good opportunity to learn and meet people. The link here to the YouTube video is our 2022 competition. So please have a look. Perhaps the students of that year can even convince you guys more than myself. But it should give you guys perhaps a good feel of what to expect if you make it to the finals. So at the finals, what we have is we have capture the flag. So similar to the qualification round, we'll do capture the flag challenges again. We have an attack and defend challenge. So that's where we do things a bit differently. We change up a bit the things we do. And this is a team-based event. So how it works is each team at the final gets a machine. This particular machine is vulnerable. There's certain problems with it. It's weak in terms of its configuration and all of that. You guys need to spend an hour or two and try to figure out what's wrong with this machine. You need to try and defend it. Try to improve the security, patch it, make it stronger. In after an hour or so, we open the network, and then it's basically free game for teams to start attacking other teams, trying to bypass those security measures you might have put in to get flags and get access to whatever is on that machine to score points. It's a crazy event. We do it on the last day when everybody is tired and overworked, but it's a very fun event and probably the closest you're going to get to, doing pen testing related activities.
I've been doing research on the
sorry. Social engineering, we don't have a dedicated challenge on that specifically, but this is probably the safest environment where you can come and try it. And I know the students do try it. They even try it sometimes on myself, as the organizer. But it is allowed within the borders of the competition. If you as a team struggle to solve a challenge and you're at your wit's end in terms of your technical skills, but your neighboring team has solved it, why not go talk to them? Buy them a drink. Buy them some pizza. Have a discussion. Try and see if you can figure out how they solved it. That is permitted within the borders of the competition. Last year, we also had lockpicking. It might look strange to you guys. Why lockpicking at the cybersecurity competition? Now, ironically, the skills you need in order to learn how to pick a lock is very relevant in terms of cybersecurity skills. That patience, trying different angles, different measure and methods. It will learn you the same patience you require perhaps to even do like something like penetration testing. Very fun activity. And it can be any skill if you ever get home and you lost your keys and you need to pick a lock perhaps. So, you never know. And then we have sponsored challenges as well. This is challenges from our industry partners. We've talked about MathWorks and Optimum Solutions. But we have other members as well that do come in and provide challenges focused on the areas they work in. And this is quite often where the headhunting also takes place. I mean, if you can do quite well in one of these challenges, you might grab the attention of the industry members that provided this challenge. You never know, you might even get an offer or get invited perhaps to participate in some of the internships or, interviews and all of that. So another nice opportunity. So you guys, if you're feeling overwhelmed a bit, especially if you're new to cybersecurity and you really don't know where to begin, we do have training material on our website. I know you guys will probably get there and say, listen, is this all? Is this all you have? And the thing is, it might not look like much, but the things you're going to learn in the material that we provide will certainly help you in terms of doing the challenges. To give you guys a hint, I provided the training material, I developed the challenges. So there's the connection already for you guys, perhaps. We also provide links to write-ups for CTF challenges. So that's sometimes perhaps the easiest way to learn perhaps how to solve these challenges, to work through these write-ups, and we do provide links to them. They're all over the internet, quite easy to get. And then the Try Hack Me rooms, I mean, there's quite a few open ones, and we did link them to the specific domains on our website. We can't beat the way they've designed the training material. It's very interactive. It's very informative, stepwise approach. So please, guys, have a look. It's highly recommended. We also list some tools and resources as well. I saw the Discord link went up on the chat. Thank you for that. I want to invite all of you attending here today to please join our Discord server. All of the information on our website we do post on Discord as well, but we are a bit more interactive on Discord. And we also post other opportunities, perhaps other CTF events. We even have a channel for internship opportunities, other training opportunities. So if you guys are very keen to get into cybersecurity, jump on the Discord server. It's probably going to be the best central place to get information. Yeah. So this is just a few photos from our past events. This was in 2023 when we were in Kruger Park. Okay, we were just outside the park at the lodge, but we basically say Kruger Park. There were wild animals roaming around. You guys can see there was a little tortoise, even though okay, that's just a stuffed toy. So I mean, this hopefully give you guys already a bit of a feel what to expect. The lockpicking, as I said, this was quite a fun event last year. We even had my manager's manager even came and picked some locks. So I'm not sure what they thought about this, but it's still a handy skill, I must say. Our past sponsors, as you guys can see, MathWork, Optimum Solutions, Dendrite, wonderful sponsorships last year in terms of prizes, NEC, internship. ISPA provided the bursary for one of the students, which I think was a great initiative in terms of promoting further studies and upskilling. And then Orange Cyber Defense is one of our key challenge sponsors as well. So I'm going to conclude in the last minute or so, and I will look at the chat and take some questions as well, guys. But just a few tips and tricks when you do CTFs, or especially when you come to our qualification round. Do not overthink a challenge. It's quite easy to do. I mean, you might expect this challenge to be either more easy or more difficult than you expect. That's why we have scores assigned to it. That should indicate how much time you are supposed to spend on it. So if it's a challenge with 5 points and it's been 10 hours, you probably missed something. I always tell the students, take a break, step away, come back, try a different angle. You will be surprised, but it always works. Tools. Yes, when it comes to CTFs, you want tools. Tools will help you. But these challenges are developed in such a way that they test your understanding of a specific concept, not the application of a specific tool. So yes, you're going to need tools. You're going to need to understand the concept in order to know which tool to apply and which manner. I've listed a few tools here, guys. So this is perhaps a very good starting point to build the arsenal. It's good to have a toolkit available or toolkit arsenal available when you do these challenges, especially if you're familiar with these tools already. It will help you and to quicken in terms of solving the challenges. The best bet is to start with something like a Kali Linux, and you can add your own tools on it. But there's no set way. It's really up to you what you feel comfortable with. But remember, it's not about the tool, it's about understanding the concept. Learn to spot some hash algorithms. So base 64, you guys are going to encounter. If you're going to work in cybersecurity, you're going to encounter base 64, especially if you do malware analysis. I can promise you guys, you're going to see a lot of base 64. The more you see it, the easier it's going to become to recognize it. Sometimes that's the go-to within CTF challenges, just to encode in base 64 so that you can't just go search for a string starting with a specific, perhaps, flag format, for example. So yeah. Password challenges. Within CTFs, we know not everybody has the same, let's say, computing resources available. I don't have a powerful laptop with a GPU, so if I need to crack a password, it's probably going to be a bit of a problem. And I know some of you guys might be gamers, you will be able to do it much, much quicker than myself. So with the password challenges, it's not really in terms of how quick can you brute force it. There's usually a bit of a trick to it. Either you need to build your own password list or use an existing password list, or it will be solvable in a quick time. So if you're going to need to brute force it, it will be something that can be brute forcing, if I can say it like that, in a very quick time. So just take note. If you're trying to crack a password and it's been 8 hours and you've got to nowhere, then again, you probably missed something. Take a step back, come back, reevaluate, try a different angle. Golden rule of CTFs is to practice, 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 guys. The more you do of these kind of challenges, the easier they become. There's patterns that repeat. There's only so many ways you can actually design and develop these challenges. Yes, new ones do come out from time to time, but you will see patterns start to emerge and repeat when you do more and more of these challenges. And that helps you guys to solve them more quicker. And don't forget, if you're going to do a CTF event, Google is your friend. Please don't feel bad to Google or ChatGPT. There's no limit. You guys are more than welcome to make use of ChatGPT as well. If you want to throw the challenges completely to ChatGPT and it's able to solve the challenge, completely, do let me know, because then I need to redesign the challenge perhaps. But if you can solve it in that manner, there's no stopping you. So if you want to learn a concept perhaps quite quickly, or if you need to develop, let's say, a little program script quite quickly, why not use ChatGPT? It is available there. So guys, that was a very long story, a long presentation, and I do hope it was insightful. I want to thank you again for taking the time. I mean, we're at 64 people. I didn't expect so many. So I really hope it was informative. I hope it was interesting. I hope you guys learn a lot. And most importantly, I hope to see you guys participate in our qualification round. You've got my email. I can drop it in the chat as well for you guys. I quickly want to jump to the chat and just see what questions might have popped up. That's nice. Winning is the prize. So perhaps in terms of prizes, we do offer prizes. I don't emphasize that too much when you get to the finals specifically, because it differs from year to year. But there is prizes. But again, making it to the final, guys, that's the biggest prize you can get. That I promise you. Will we get the slides? I will share the slides afterwards. I hope Luto, do I pronounce your name right? You can help me. If I pronounce it incorrect, you're welcome to jump in and say, listen, this is how you pronounce it. But I will share it with you. We set up this session tonight, and a shout out to you as well for organizing this, for reaching out to me on Discord to try and get the students as part of the society involved with this. So this is very epic. Thank you so much for doing that. I will share the slides with you as well. We've got Discord. Oh, okay, awesome. Thanks for confirming I pronounced it correct. Guys, it is 8 o'clock at night. I've worked the whole day, so I might be a bit silly, but I'm usually not good with names, so I do apologize, but thanks for confirming. I'm going to give you guys my email address in the chat as well. So if you perhaps miss it in the slides, but I'm going to make that available. So please feel free. You guys are welcome to reach out to me if you have questions. Okay, so there's a question. Do students from private colleges qualify to participate in the challenge? Colleges like Rosebank College studying IT. So this is unfortunately not such a straightforward answer. Currently, eligible institutions are institutions that are connected to our network. So if institutions such as Rosebank College do form part of our network, and that's now the SAN ring, then they will be eligible to participate. But that is perhaps something I would just need to check on my side. I think perhaps what I should do is make a list of institutions so that it's quite clear and cut who are eligible to qualify, because I'm not 100% sure about Rosebank College. I just need to double check. But I will go check and see if I can confirm whether it is eligible or not. Can you participate in the competition solo? So, okay, that is also a tricky question, but it is a fair question. We don't prefer it. Reasons being, if you're going to work in cybersecurity, it is a team environment. We want you guys to learn how to operate in a team. If you're going to make it to the finals, believe me, you won't be able to cope as a one-man team. There's just too many things happening. But if it's a case of you just want to give this a go. You're completely new to cybersecurity. You just want to see where you are, and perhaps you're struggling to find a team or members that are eager to do these things, and you just want to try them out, then I will give you that opportunity. So if it's a case where it's not really that you focus to make it to the finals as a team, you just want to get the exposure to the challenges, reach out to me. If you register as a one-man team, I will probably notice it, and then I will contact you directly as well to say, listen, perhaps let's see what was the reason behind it. And if you can give me good enough motivation, then I can give you access to the platform. I've done it in the past, so it's not a problem. Again, the motivation behind this competition is to give you guys the opportunity to learn cybersecurity. So I don't want to limit just in terms of how we've set up the competition. If you want to learn and try to get these skills, yes, you can. Where can we register? On our website. So on csc.ac.za. That is where you guys can register. I think, let me add it on our website in the chat as well. There we go. Let's quickly check. Okay, so do we have to submit write-ups for the qualification CTF challenges? No, you don't have to submit write-ups. So if you want to do a write-up just for your own understanding, you're more than welcome to do so. I will ask that you please do not publish the write-ups on the internet, because it is a bit of a struggle to do these challenges, to make them. And as soon as a write-up is published, it's free game. So if you as a team, or even if you guys as a society, you've done some of these challenges and you just want to discuss and share how certain teams have solved it internally within your team society, please feel free to do that. Not a problem at all. Please just don't publish them on the internet. It's really, really difficult, guys. I'm going to be honest with you. Difficult to solve these challenges, or build these challenges. Sometimes to solve them as well. Okay. Okay, guys, I don't see more questions. I've already kept you almost 10 minutes past. So let me take this opportunity again to thank you guys. The excellent audience. Thank you for the interest. Like I said, I didn't expect 63 people. So this is really, really awesome to see. I'm looking forward to your teams registering and participating. Again, questions, you guys got my email. Reach out, ask the questions, jump on Discord. Don't be scared to ask. There is no incorrect question that can be asked. You guys are welcome to reach out. And then I want to wish you guys all the best. If you're going to participate, give it your best shot. You never know. You might just make it to the finals. And then also just a shout out to you guys in terms of your studies. All the best with that as well. And I'm sure you guys will do excellent work this year. I will make the recording available as well. I will share with you later. No problem. Okay. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful evening and looking forward to your participation. Thanks, guys. Let's do a wave. Thanks, guys. All the best.